The new government has a superb opportunity now to deliver some justice. The old coalition had a penchant for persecuting people for doing the right thing. That is, whistleblowers. David McBride, not a finger lifted for Julian Assange. Bernard Collaery, Witness K. Now, we just run a story by Greg Barnes, a human rights lawyer, on the website, basically calling on Albo and Penny Wong and expressing hopes that they would now move to intervene with the US government through quiet back-channel diplomacy, not with foghorn diplomacy, and urge for them to drop the case against Julian Assange. For 9 years, of course, the coalition has done nothing. They've been happy to let Julian Assange rot in Belmarsh prison in the UK for doing the right thing. And contrary to early speculation that he identified and put in danger people's lives, he actually retracted the names of people that were in danger just in the nights before The Guardian and the New York Times published the WikiLeaks scoops a decade ago. In the case of Bernard Collaery, who was the lawyer for Witness K, who exposed the Australian government spying on the government of East Timor, on behalf of Woodside, on behalf of an oil company, to get its hands on some assets, some oil and gas assets up in the Timor Sea. Collaery is, at the moment, in a secret trial. There's all sorts of secrecy provisions that they've invoked which deny him natural justice. In the case of Julian Assange, if he gets extradited to the US, he faces 150 years in prison. In the case of David McBride, the Afghan war crimes whistleblower who tried to go through the right channels and finally went public with allegations of war crimes by Australian soldiers in Afghanistan, David faces 50 years in jail. He's got that hanging over his head. It might not get to court for another year or two. These things are particularly bad because people should not be persecuted for doing the right thing. In a lesser case, only lesser because he's not facing a jail sentence, we've been batting on about it for 2 years now. It's about Lend-Lease, who's a majestic tax dodger. Lend-Lease hasn't paid any tax in Australia for 10 years. One of Lend-Lease's tax lawyers, a guy called Tony Watson, blew the whistle. He went to the Lend-Lease board. He was an external law firm, which is now being wrapped into PwC of all places, because they were the guys that advised Lend-Lease on $1 billion tax dodge. Tony Watson blew the whistle on this tax dodge and tried to alert the management, then went to the board, then went to the ATO, did all the right things, lost his job, and now he's up against Lend-Lease fighting for justice in a case which is probably going to cost him so much money that he's had to mortgage his house to fund his legal case to seek justice. The ATO has put out a draft ruling agreeing with Watson's view that you can't double dip on your tax deductions as Lend-Lease did in its retirement village operation. It's about $300 million he will have saved the Australian taxpayer. That's what it's worth. Deductions of $1 billion. 6 years of fallacious accounting. So we've got a situation here, and it's central to our raison d'etre here at Michael West Media that we monitor and report on the rising power of corporations over our democracy. As we've seen in recent years, especially through the pandemic, where basically a lot of large corporations were underwritten by the government. They've got bigger, they've got more profitable and more powerful, and now they've all got social media laws where you don't really have freedom of speech, because if you express your opinion, you could lose your job. Now, what does that mean for somebody like Tony Watson that does the right thing and says, no, Lend-Lease has done the wrong thing here? It needs to not double dip on its tax deductions. What happens to people like Watson? If Watson loses his house, he's already lost his job for doing the right thing. What happens then? Will anybody ever blow the whistle? Will any tax lawyer again do the right thing and blow the whistle and say, this is not right? This is robbing the Australian people. Now, the ATO needs to speed up and get its ruling finalised, obviously, because it's been dragging on for years now. But the problem for Watson and other whistleblowers is that the whistleblowing laws themselves, there's only been one decision made since the laws were introduced in 2019. They just don't afford proper protection to whistleblowers. They are faulty. They need to be scotched or redrafted. They need to be fixed. We're only touching the tip of the iceberg here. There are many more whistleblowers, and some that we never even hear of. Ben Coe, Dr. Ben Coe. There's Jeff who blew the whistle in the Commonshaw case. There's a CBA Financial Services whistleblower, Jeff Morris. There's a host of them. Troy Stoltz in the clubs and pokies, money laundering situation. You know, these people need to be protected. I mean, every year On Australia Day, we have this honours list. There are all these people like businessmen and lawyers and people from all the professions, very few journalists if ever. There are these people that get awarded Australia Day honours for simply doing their job, for being good at business and making a lot of money. The real honours should belong to these people who've put their careers, their lives in some cases, at risk by blowing the whistle, by doing the right thing. They've gone beyond just doing a good job. They've done something in service of their country, of their democracy. So what can we all do? We can email our local MPs, we can email Albo and Penny Wong. Here are their email addresses for you. We can get a level of community outcry going about this terrible injustice, because if it goes on, what's going to happen with these large, dominant corporations? People will not blow the whistle anymore. They will do the wrong thing. It will corrupt our democracy. People need to be rewarded, not punished, for doing the right thing. And unfortunately, the anti-disestablishmentarians, I've always wanted to use that word, of the coalition, these reactionaries, these do-nothings, have done nothing for 9 years. Now, Labor, a few MPs, including Albo himself, have made the right noises about whistleblowers and about Julian Assange.
Journalism is not a crime. It's essential to preserving our democracy. We don't need a culture of secrecy, we need a culture of disclosure. Protect whistleblowers, expand their protections and the public interest test. Reform freedom of information laws so they can't be flouted.
Now we need to put the pressure on them to come good, because politicians are great at making promises and not quite as good when it comes to following through. So a shout out to those who support us on Patreon. Thank you very, very much. And if you're not a supporter yet, you'd like to throw us a few bucks a month, please do so on the link below, and we'll keep the pressure on.